Good after, or no, it's still morning, you guys. It is 10:22 in the AM Mountain Time, and I am recording this Wednesday morning. It is June 11th, and we are about to get into the next episode of The Bookshelf. Welcome, and welcome back. We are reading The Spinks Jinx. This is the story of Nova Malika Spinks, wife of boxing champ Leon Spinks. And last we were together, we left off in the middle of chapter 11. Shall we get back into it? Let's. Let me just figure out where exactly we left off. One moment. So we left off. Nova was imploring Leon to please don't leave me here in St. Louis by myself, right? So Leon responded, Mama, you don't have to worry about shit happening to you here. You're not by yourself. Ed and Lester are here. They'll look out for you. That's not something I expected him to say or look to someone else to take care of and do what he was responsible for. Then Leon put his arm around me and said, I wouldn't do anything to hurt you or leave you no place. Woman, not after you stayed in my corner like you have. I love you, Nova. I'm not going to do nothing to lose you. I thought that he had already done enough of that to happen, but I guess he didn't see it that way. Hold on, y'all. I forgot my earbud. Okay. So, got my earbuds. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me better now. Okay. I was still unsure. But if I tried to say something more, I would have lost it and broken down. I wasn't about to do that, and I didn't want anyone else to know that I was having any discomfort. If I had to cry, I wanted to do it alone. 15 minutes went by with no Leon, and the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mitt tried to reassure everyone that Leon would be back any minute, that Leon had never lied to him. I looked at Mitt and thought, how the hell could he say that when lie was all Leon had ever done with him from the contract on down? As far as I was concerned, he was just as pitiful as I was when it came to Leon. After another hour passed, it was clear that Leon had made Mitt the liar after all. A search was organized to try to find him so he wouldn't miss the plane, not to mention find Mitt's caddy. I was so swept away, not wanting to believe that this was happening and wondering why it was. Lester and Hot Dog came back an hour later to tell me that they couldn't find him and that I should try to make the plane without Leon. They saw the look on my face, and then Lester said, don't worry, Nova. They're still looking for him. He might make the plane. I was too drained to protest. I didn't want to be in St. Louis, so I agreed. Lester already knew what the deal was with Leon. I think he didn't want me to freak out on him if I learned what he had found out and couldn't believe himself. I was very quiet all the way to the airport, only speaking if spoken to. After Lester checked us in and we were waiting to board the plane, I mustered up enough courage to ask him and Hot Dog what I had halfway figured out myself and didn't want to face. I knew that if I watched their faces as I asked the question, Lester wouldn't lie to me if I hit the nail on the head. He would try, but it would show on his face, and he would drop his head in silence. I didn't know how he was a lawyer. When I saw that, I received my answer. I couldn't hold back tears that had welled up in my eyes. When they called our flight number, Lester began to wipe my face, asking me not to cry. He was squeezing my hand and said, I don't know what to say, Nova. I know that you're hurt. I'm hurt for you. I don't know how much more of this you can take. I tried to talk to him and that woman and reason with her. I told her that if she cared anything about him, she would try to help us get him up and out of there so he could make it to the airport. Leon was out cold. I told her that he didn't need to be in St. Louis, and all this broad would say was, I can't make him do nothing. And she grinned at me. So I came to get you, so you wouldn't miss the plane. I'm so sorry, Nova. I heard what he was telling me, and I know he was trying to comfort me somehow, but it was like he was talking to me through a tunnel. I just couldn't believe what he had confirmed for me. After all, this was the same woman that they had to promise the moon and stars, plus give her money before they could talk things out with the officials, just to keep her from turning state's evidence against Leon. The same one who had brought all this on. I just didn't want to believe that Leon was lying up with her. Not the same slut that he had to face the grand jury behind. Not the same gutter-bred bitch that had gotten him arrested in the first place. Marlene, who could have been a cousin to a Gila monster. I cried all the way back. I tried to hide it, keeping Kleenex up to my face as if I had a bad cold, or looking out the window as the plane made its way back to Detroit. It was just another thing that I had to soak up and add to a stack of things already piled up on now weak shoulders. I didn't know at that point how much more I could take before I crumpled completely, and to my surprise, I was able to take a little more. Leon had been found and made to come back with threats from Judge Bell and Lester of him being on his own if he didn't comply and come back to our home in Detroit, which was the Pontchartrain Hotel then. When Leon came in, he went through his usual changes. I tried to talk to him and asked if he wanted a divorce. He looked at me for a long time, and I was holding my breath, thinking that he was going to tell me yes, he did. But he kept on doing what he was doing, not giving me an answer. So I tried to ask him again, and he spun around, grabbed my shoulders, and said, "No, you know I don't. I don't, Mama. I can't tell you nothing else. A nigga can't say nothing when he's wrong. You're too good for me. I think I'm losing my mind. I don't know what's wrong with me." At that moment, I damn sure couldn't tell him. Leon got up and stared out the window, looking down at the waterfront of Hart Plaza and the cars passing back and forth below on the John C. Lodge freeway. All of his hangers-ons found out that the party man had been captured and was back in Detroit. Before long, they were all over the place, keeping room service hopping. Leon stayed in his robe and was running from room to room up and down the hallway, which had people and good times in all of them, except the one that I was in. I found myself shaking, unable to control it. I swallowed another Valium 10 minutes after the last one, and I washed it down with brandy. This was something that was commonplace to me as the weeks went by. All it would take was a phone call and my supply would be replenished. Excuse me. Lester called wanting to tell Leon something that was planned for the next day. I told Lester to hold on and that I would try to find Leon for him. I didn't mind doing anything for Lester. I felt befriended by him at that time. I couldn't say if he was sincere in his concern for me. After all, I wasn't the person stuffing their pockets with money. But I needed to think that there was someone in the pack that felt something for me, although I now recognized it was pity. I went to the hallway and began to look for Leon. He wasn't in any of the rooms I checked. I came back through a different door than I left out of to tell Lester that I was still looking. When I passed an adjoining door to our series of suites in the third bedroom, I heard noises and low, guttural sounds. I looked through the door that had been left half open, and there, in the semi-darkness, I found Leon on the bed, naked, intertwined on top of one of his typical inner-city sluts. I stood there in the dark, just staring, wanting to say something, but unable to speak. My stomach began churning, and I felt myself heaving. I put my hand over my mouth, turned, and ran for the nearest bathroom, where I began to vomit for what seemed like forever. After that subsided, I pulled myself up off the floor and splashed water in my face. I believe that I was still in shock. It has been said that there is a thin line between sanity and insanity, and at this point I began to feel myself cross the line. I went to the phone and told Lester to hold on a little longer and that Leon would be along, that he was busy at the moment. I found myself humming. It was something slow and soothing. I went to the bedroom, sat at the dressing table, and began to apply my makeup, being very careful. Not too much, not too little. For some reason, it had to be just right. As though I was going to some grand ball. I was starting on my hair when Leon came in, looking strange and flushed. I believe he came to see where I was, and when he noticed the phone off the hook, he picked it up and said, "Hello?" Leon turned to me, trying to study my face, and saw nothing. He put the phone down and began talking to me like we had just spent the evening together, but there was something in the tone of his voice, nervousness. He tried hard to look in my face, but kept looking down at the floor. He always told me that I could read him like a book, that I could tell him what he was going to do before he did it. He had been told by one of his family members that I was able to do this because I practiced witchcraft on him. I don't know how many times I wish that this was true, because if I had such powers at that time, Leon would have done all that was right. If he refused me, I could have turned him into a frog or some such creature and kept him in a shoebox under my bed until he was receptive of how to act. And because he believed this, Leon always had difficulty raising his eyes to mine. At that time, Leon had to put all of that behind him. He thought that he was behind a closed door, and he wanted to make sure I hadn't found out about the interlude he had taken. He went on to tell me that he had a surprise for me. He had made reservations for the two of us to go to Des Moines so I could see Charlie and my family. He said, "You need the rest, Mama. You look tired. Now, get our things together. I'll call down and tell them to get the limo out. The plane leaves in an hour." I remember doing as he asked, moving my legs that couldn't feel. I began to pack our things, and just as I was finishing, I heard noises, bumping and whispering. I started to creep around myself, looking out the peepholes in the doors throughout the suite. I could see the hallway from every angle, and what I saw was Leon waving the interlopers out with his bags as he kept looking over his shoulder. The last one out was the woman that he had taken to bed. I would have to deal with her later down the line. Lily. I knew what I was seeing. I had seen it so many times before. The changes that they all would go through to help him get away. I recognized most of them. For some reason, I decided to kick the door softly just to make a noise while still looking out the peephole, and when I did, all of the bastards scattered like cockroaches when the lights come on. They jump back into doorways. After a minute, I watched them slowly come back out and tiptoe down the hallway, put Leon on the elevator, and I watched some of them walk back toward my door and knock. I unlocked the door, sat down at the table, and told them to come in. What they asked me after what I had just witnessed broke the last string of anything that I was holding on to. I couldn't understand why they just wouldn't leave me alone. Why did they need to hurt me? What had I done to them? Why did they want me dead, killing me softly through my mind? Did they devise pleasure out of my mind slaughter? They came in joking and said, "Hey, Nova, how are you doing?" "That's good. We came to talk to the champ for a minute. Is he here?" I just stared at them. I had a strong urge to fight for my life, to just jump up and start ripping at their faces. My silence made them look at each other. They turned and left without another word. I watched the door shut behind them. I don't know how long I stared at that door before I looked down at the table and saw a note that Leon had left, probably when I was packing. It read, "Mama, I got a little problem that I got to work out alone. I don't want you to keep being upset, so you go ahead to Des Moines. You need to see your people. I'll have myself together when I get there in a few days. Please know that you are my life, and I love you with everything that I got. Kiss Charlie for me. Love, Daddy." But he wasn't alone. He was with Lily, and I don't know how many others, in the limo, to one of many stops that led out of Michigan. That was it. I didn't have any more to give. I was so very, very tired. My mind started reeling. I released tears that felt as though they were coming from the bottom of my soul. I began to go over everything that I had endured in such a short time. Some of the things that happened I could never put down on paper. I couldn't conceive why. All I knew for sure then was that Leon was hiding from me, and it made me feel like a warden. I began to have a reality check, and it was all in my face. I couldn't pretend. I was talked about, set up, laughed at, ridiculed, questioned, lied on, run over, and seen in a bad light by those looking without the knowledge of what it really was that they were seeing. And all behind him, trying to help him, defend him, and trying to do it all. It all slugged me in the face, and all I saw was Leon not giving a shit. He didn't care what I had done on his behalf. He had sex with the tramp right in the next room. I was certain he didn't have any respect for me, not even a little, or enough to go to another hotel, another floor, or just further down the hall. It all began to flash by me as if I was watching slides from a projector. I threw my hands up to my face and covered my eyes. But the images wouldn't fade. Every pride-snatching, gut-wrenching, low-down thing that I had lived through in just 4 months, not to mention all that I had gone through on his leap to the championship. I was on a runaway merry-go-round. I felt lost, thrown away with no one that I could talk to without my guard being up. And at the moment, my guard was on a coffee break. I was paranoid of everyone, and I felt like I had the right to be. I had long ago turned to marijuana pills, alcohol, and anything else that I could get my hands on that would take me to another place, all done in secret while trying to keep it all together, to hold on tooth and nail, trying to grab onto some part of what I used to be to help me fight. And at this point, it was useless. Was I buried down too deep to hear me, to help me? I didn't have a sense of self-worth. The beauty, the joy, and the very wonder of life meant nothing to me. I was at an impasse, and I reached my abyss. I'd heard that a person is a coward who tried to take a certain way out, that suicide is such a dastardly act. I don't believe that's true. I don't know if you could call it strength, but you have to summon up something to know that you're about to do something that will cause you physical pain in order to just not exist anymore. At that time, I didn't care. I'd had enough, and in an act of desperation, I took one of Leon's razor blades, closed my eyes, held my breath, gritted my teeth, and pushed the blade into my wrist and pulled it across twice. Pain shot up my arm, and chills ran through my body. I opened my eyes and watched the blood run down into my hands, through my fingers, and fall onto the floor. I don't know how long I sat there and watched it, long enough for a pool of my blood to form on the floor. There was no pain anymore, just throbbing. I became uneasy and started thinking that it was my blood on the floor that was making the pool grow bigger and bigger, not Leon's. He was the reason that I had come to this, and how long would he mourn? 3 minutes? as long as it would take him to put a Coke spoon up to his nose or the pipe in his mouth. Then I panicked, and in an instant, I knew what I had done, and at the same time, I knew I wanted to live. I thought about my family, Charlie, my mother, and grandmother. I knew there would be nothing that anyone could say to them to make them understand how I had come to this and why I had done this. They would suffer while my suffering would be over as I knew it. They hadn't done anything to deserve this. I knew that my mother loved Charlie, but she wasn't me. It wouldn't be the same, and he would still be without his mother. And the father figure he had was like having no one. I knew it all wasn't right. It was then that things turned around for me. I was ready to fight again, one more time. But this time it would be for me. I saw a belt hanging over the doorknob. I pulled it down, wrapped it tightly around my arm. My head was pounding as I pulled myself up and made my way to the phone. I thought about Aisha and I called, but there was no answer. Then I called Amina, and thank God she was home. I felt weak, physically weaker than I've ever been. I was trying to talk to her, but on top of everything else, the Valium I had taken wouldn't let me put anything in order to form a sentence. I thought that it was already too late for me. I remember trying to tell her things to tell my mother and Charlie. I loved them, and nothing was their fault. I began to cry, asking her to tell my mother to bring me home, to put me to rest there. I never told Amina what I'd done. I was too ashamed. I remember her calling my name and saying, "Nova, Nova, what's the matter? What have you done?" I couldn't talk to her anymore. My tongue felt like it was swelling up and wrapped in cotton. I either hung up the phone or was cut off. Then a very strange calm came over me. I wasn't so frantic anymore. I don't know how much time had passed when I heard the door open and the hotel police came in along with Aisha, Amina, and Annette Rainwater. I had crawled up into the window seat and sat in the dark, looking out onto the river at the neon signs across the water on the Canada side, and all the colors were running together. Security stood by the door while they rushed over to me and quietly sat down. Amina noticed the belt that was hanging from my arm. She took my hand and gently turned it over and gasped. Aisha whispered, "What's the matter? Did she do anything?" Amina turned to her and, "Oh yes, she did. This is a goddamn shame." Aisha jumped up and ran for the phone. I don't know who she called, but she said, "I don't give a damn about Leon or who finds out what. He should have thought about all of that before she came to this. She's in crisis. She needs help." After that, they sprang into action themselves. Annette found my coat and some shoes, turned on the lights, and helped me get out of my bloody clothes. Aisha went for my purse to get my ID when she said, "Oh no, if she's taking some of those Valium that was spilled on the floor on top of everything else, we have more of a problem. We have to hurry." By that time, someone else had appeared. I don't remember who, but I do know that all of the women in the room were incensed, saying that it all didn't make any sense. It was shameful, and all bore witness to the jinx of a no-good black-ass man that willfully dogs a woman until she's down and out. Just a shame. I was taken down the service elevator with the garbage. I was told it was for my own sake to try to avoid the public in my condition. Arms all about me and my feet barely touching the floor, I was taken down to the basement of the hotel and being whisked away to the hospital, with the closest one being the doctor's hospital on Jefferson. Once there, I recall bright lights looking up into a doctor's face, being talked to very loudly, my face being slapped, asking how many pills I'd taken. Aisha was being interrogated, the doctor yelling for the drug Narcan and being injected with it. After that, I felt myself start to come around. The fog lifted out of my head as they cleaned, stitched, and dressed my wrist. I was admitted to the hospital. I was so tired, mentally as well as physically. The doctor told all that were there that I would be okay from a medical standpoint, that I needed rest, silence, and some kind of counseling or therapy. I can't tell anyone why, because I don't know myself. But the very minute after I was put in my room and put under watch, I wanted everyone to know that there was no need to worry about me, that I had already been destroyed. I had been to the wall, to the limit, through the fire, and like a phoenix, I would rise from the ashes and start anew. All right, Nova. As long as I was given the blessings of another day, it did not matter what happened. I would never, ever try anything like that again. In the days following my destruction, Aisha, Amina, and Annette returned to the hospital daily. I was still a little shaky. I was going through withdrawal from the Valium, and I felt ashamed. They told me that there was no need for that, and Aisha had brought me some things to read. Islam in Focus and the Holy Quran. She told me that the books would give me the strength that I needed, and the Holy Quran would give me knowledge and heal me spiritually. I read the first book, and as I started to read the Holy Quran, I began to receive understanding like I never had before. I felt warm, safe, and protected. I knew that nothing would or could harm me, not even myself, without Allah's permission, and He by no means had given His permission for me to give back His gift of life. It was then that I accepted Islam. Aisha and Amina were Muslim, and I realized then, so was I. It was nothing spooky or spiritual. It was about knowing the truth and having the knowledge, and I was hungry for it. I was given the name Malika, named by their brother Rasul. It was then that Nova Malika was born again. I began to get quiet and peaceful wisdom. Along with it came all the strength I needed and more. Leon had to be found. He was someplace in Ohio. Lester told me that Leon had the gall to fall out and actually cry when he heard what happened. And then he went on a real bender right after he got the news and vanished. He had to be found again, sobered up, and then brought back to Detroit. 4 days had passed before Leon walked into the hospital. And when he did, he looked like he was being led to slaughter. He wasn't alone. Judge Bell, Lester Marshall, and Marvin Woolfork, who was Roger Stafford's brother-in-law and had taken the job and title of Leon's personal aide, were with him. All the women were there as well. They never left my side. Leon couldn't look at me, and all the men in the room looked like they were attending a wake and kept their eyes cast down toward the floor. They were acting as if eye contact with me would turn them into mindless drones with a compelling need to go out and find a razor blade so they could end it all. The women in the room looked at the sight before them, then at me, and then at each other, and began shaking their heads. Aisha was the first to speak and say, "Let's all go out and get some coffee or something so they can be alone for a little bit." The men seemed to be relieved and made a hasty exit out of the room, leaving Leon and me alone. After about 10 minutes of silence, Leon walked over to me and fell across the bed, clutching at me and the blankets, sobbing and saying that he was sorry. He was talking in a voice that was barely detectable, as though he had been screaming at the top of his lungs for hours. He then said, "Mama, I'm so sorry. I didn't want nothing like this to happen to you." I found myself beginning to comfort him, and I started to try to soothe him instead of asking for or receiving some consoling myself. I still loved him, and I didn't bleed that way. Smoky. Then it started. Those little doubts were trying to come that I had about myself. Was I mistaken? Maybe it was all the pills and alcohol that made me take or see things the wrong way. But that quickly all blew away, and I was put on the right track for good by none other than Leon himself. After he composed himself and stopped crying, he took my hand and in all honesty said, "Mama, I thought that you was stronger than you was. I would have never done all the things that I have done to you, not back to back. I would have given you a rest. I would have waited a few days before I did something else to you. I didn't know you couldn't take it." Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? I just want to make sure y'all heard that. I stared at him blinking. I was in complete awe, trying to take in all that I had just heard, and then I was dumbfounded. I started laughing like I just got the punchline to the funniest joke ever told. I laughed so hard that I scared Leon, and he jumped off the bed and asked me if I wanted him to call the doctor. I told Leon that I didn't need a doctor, and then I just sat there and I had to say out loud, "No, no more." Well, this is something, you stupid fat bitch. After all the pain I had been through, I had walked through hell in gasoline underwear, and it meant nothing to Leon other than giving me a few days rest before he dropped another bomb on me. At that moment, I had finally lost something else for Leon. I still cared about him. That wouldn't go away in a matter of a few minutes or days. I would be there because I chose to, and I would still watch his back, only this time it would be for the both of us, because now I was concerned about me, and I was putting myself into this thing at last. What? I'm so fucking confused. Let's just keep reading. In all the time that had passed, I'd only taken what was necessary from Leon and never asked for more. I always made my own clothes before because I felt I had to. It would save money, and thereafter I would buy them. Leon had clothes, shoes, at least 70 pairs, gold and diamonds hanging everywhere, and I never resented that. And I was happy to see him happy, even though the one chain I had wasn't real. It was Sarah Coventry. All of that changed in due time, but there were other things that had to be done right away. My stitches were removed, and Judge Bell called in a plastic surgeon to see what he could do about the scars that were left behind. I was in the hospital for almost 2 weeks. I was released the night of the 12th day. When Leon and Marvin came to get me, Aisha was already there and we all went back to the hotel. Leon had tried to change suites to another floor, but the hotel was full. Although everything had been cleaned away, it was still a grim reminder of the guilt that he was bearing. When I looked at him, I knew it wouldn't be long before he would be gone again. Leon had bought me some little guilt gifts, some perfume and a stuffed toy. I'd loved them at one time, but then I just looked at it and threw it in a corner, careful not to let Leon see me treated with such disregard. Leon asked Aisha if she would stay with me, telling her that there was something he wanted to get for me and that he didn't want to leave me alone. Aisha really didn't know Leon then, not like I did, so she agreed, asking how long he would be. Leon told her an hour. I just smiled as he kissed me and was gone like his pants were on fire. I asked Aisha if she was hungry. She told me that she could wait until Leon came back. What for? Leon won't be back here tonight. I told her. Oh, girl, he will too. He wouldn't do that. And you just got out of the hospital, she replied. I said nothing else to her and just hunched my shoulders smugly, knowing that I was right, and ordered dinner anyway. 4 hours went by and I gave her a blanket as she nodded off to sleep. She muttered, I don't believe it, but I did. Leon was back the next morning. I told Aisha that I would be fine and she was gone by the time he came in. When he came back, I was there in my spot waiting on him. But he wouldn't find me as he had done so many times before. It was all new. Nova Malika was waiting on him, and Leon didn't know that there had been a change. Just how big a change, I would keep to myself for the time being. He wouldn't look at me or say anything, and that was normal. It happened so many times before. The scenario was I would keep quiet for a few days until he couldn't stand it anymore, and he would finally say something to me. But not this time. I lit into him as soon as the door shut. I told him that I was sick and tired of all the nonsense that had been going on. I was tired of looking homespun. I was going to grow in the right way and take advantage of all the things this position had to offer me. You can come with me or not. I'm tired of this hotel room and the money you are blowing off paying for them. $225 a day was outrageous just to be living like a tumbleweed. If you want me like you say you do, then you're going to... Someone knocked on the door to Leon's relief. It was Hot Dog, Lester, and Marvin, telling Leon that a Jet reporter had gotten wind of something and that there had been some kind of leak, and they wanted to do an interview with both of us. If we declined, they would take the story and run with it, so we really didn't have a choice in the matter. I'd already been told that what I had done wasn't good for Leon, and how that kind of press Leon didn't need, and that it would hurt him. That he was young, and some of the things that he had done were to be expected. I stood there trying to wait until they were finished with all that garbage, but I couldn't. What they heard next, they didn't expect to hear. Not from me, and I let them have it, saying, hold it right there. Don't come to me with that. I'm not an old woman. I am young, too. I'm 1 year older than Leon. That's 12 months, 365 days. And I can't do nothing to Leon that he isn't already doing to himself. He's not a damn kid. He knows the difference between right and wrong, and he always has. Whatever he does is because he wants to do it. Everybody gives him his wish because he's the champ. He's riding high with all of you, and I don't know how many other bastards on his back. When a fall comes, his black ass is the only one without a parachute. He's not the only one with hopes and wishes, and some of mine are going to come to light for a change. After that, I opened the door and waited. They looked at me and then at each other and got up to leave. On the way out the door, Lester smiled and winked at me. And even he was in the dark because he didn't know what I was going to do or say at the interview. I yelled down the hallway after them and said, while it lasts, you all better remember and pass it on. I'm Mrs. Champ. I'm the first lady, even if it's only for 2 more months. And if that's the way it should turn out, all I'll say is God is the greatest. He's the best knower. And so be it. I slammed the door behind them. Leon didn't say a word through all of this. I think he was in shock. He just sat there with his eyebrow raised and his hook in his mouth. Then he looked at me and said, it's all right, Mama, calm down. I want you to think about something nice for yourself. After you tried suicide, I want to buy some things for you. That was all I needed to hear. I couldn't wait. Leon made some calls for money and a limo so I could go shopping. I knew I could save the biggest and the best gift for myself for last. That would be my I tried suicide gift, as Leon put it. The limo pulled away from the Ponchar train with everybody aboard. We made at least 10 stops that day. The first stop was to the jeweler. I bought and had made gold chains, bracelets, bangles, and diamond rings. And then new clothes, silks, and linens, all by designers, shoes, 24 pair, handbags, and hats. And the last stop of the day was the car dealer.
I bought a new Cadillac.
A gray Seville that I nicknamed Lucy Bell. Judge Bell's eyes rolled back in his head. He didn't relish the idea of Leon behind the wheel of a car. One hand washed the other that day. There were kickbacks galore. I knew that. Everyone was happy. Nova was spending money. That meant that they could too. If something was amiss or there was any question, they had a wife to put it on. I didn't care then as long as I got what I wanted and I felt wonderful. I let loose my newfound independence with determination and confidence. I learned to let nothing befall me that wasn't supposed to, that would only happen with God's intervention. I stopped becoming a victim of Leon's self-made circumstances and took charge of me. I realized that a little boy called Charlie and I was all I was to give answer for. And when the day came when Charlie became a man, then it would be Nova again. If I had to lie for Leon, I would whenever it was necessary, and I was compensated whenever it was prearranged. I knew what was going on, and it wouldn't take anything from me. Other than that, I was going to say what the hell I felt when I wanted to about whatever was on my mind, and what I thought was what I was going to say. If a question was asked of me and I wanted to answer it, I would, and it would be the truth. 3 days later, we went to meet the reporter at Judge Bell's office, and everyone was walking on eggshells around me. That was amazing. I did give the interview, but it wasn't quite like they asked me to give it. The reporter didn't pull any punches. Well, to get straight to my most pressing question, I heard you tried to commit suicide, Nova. Is that true? He was staring in my face and saw nothing but shock and surprise. And what followed would make Liz Taylor sit up and take notice. I said, "What? Oh, no. Whoever would say such a thing like that? I'm fine and healthy. Leon and I are very, very happy. Why wouldn't we be? We're rich." Leon just took me shopping today and yesterday, too. And as a matter of fact, he got me this ring. I lifted my hand to show him the 3.5 carat pear-shaped diamond and a lot of other things, including a brand new car, a Cadillac, for my anniversary gift. Now, does that sound like I'm on the edge of despair or disaster? Leon broke in and yelled, "We love each other." I continued, "Yes, we do. And the best gift of all that I didn't tell you about is the new house Leon is buying me because I've been such a good wife. I'm going to decorate it just like I want it, and that will keep me busy because Leon has so much that he has to do, and he wants me to be content and happy." I told the reporter that it would be in the city and that I would start looking the next day. Leon's eyes were flashing, but he kept up the good show, and the smile remained plastered on his face. That was when Leon learned that he was buying me a house. That was my I tried suicide guilt gift. Leon was completely happy with me up in the hotel suite, paying all of that money for it every day. We, or should I say I, had been there for 3 months already. That was a lot of bucks going into Mr. Ponchartrain's pockets, and I was tired of it. As the curtain came down on our little play, I thought, damn, Leon and I both missed our calling. We should surely have been on stage. I went on to find the house that I wanted. It was in Rosedale Park, a subdivision of Detroit. It was a 5-bedroom Tudor on the corner of Breton and Outer Drive. Of course, arrangements had been made for me to look at some dinosaur that no one wanted with the price tag that was unbelievable, but I slipped off smoothly and found my house without their help for less than half the price. I was determined not to let anybody take over and decide where I was going to live. It was my gift, and no one paid the dues on it but me, and no one would get not even a little piece out of this deal. It would be sometime before the closing. I was in a hurry to move in and start to decorate, but I had to stay in that damn hotel at least 3 weeks longer. I went home to get Charlie and get back in touch with my little boy. It was a good time for me. I relaxed and started to grow. I was not going to rush through it. I was going to inhale all of the life and knowledge that my position offered. I would take time to learn and discover. I took in all the places of culture and started to take advantage of all the areas on the map that we traveled to. I went to the museums and art galleries. I tried to grow in a strong, positive way, while Leon, on the other hand, was still doing his thing, thinking about nothing but partying and choosing high heels and staying high. He would have watchdogs on me no matter where he was. I wasn't chasing him anymore, which he couldn't understand. He just knew that I was up to no good, and he had to know what I was doing, no matter where he was on the map. He would call and get reports, and he would always get an earful, not only from our new driver, I called him Deputy Dog, but from a lot of others, some of whom hadn't ever seen me. And if I was in their face, they wouldn't know who the hell they were looking at. Deputy Dog would get more familiar with me as the days wore on. I would cuss him out and put him in his place almost every day. One day, I finally was enlightened to what his problem was. It was really easy because he came right out and tried to tell me, "Nova, you're lonely, and I'm lonely." He didn't have to say anything else because I knew he wanted to take me to bed with the assurance that I could do anything that I wanted no matter what, and he wouldn't tell Leon anything. I'd let him have it again and told him, just because a person is alone doesn't mean that they are lonely. And if I wanted to lay down with someone, it would be my choice, not the other way around. Therefore, he would tell Leon everything he thought I did, something true or not. I saw then that he was trying to sabotage me. I started to slip off from him with little or no trouble. I learned how to do that from Leon, if nothing else. Leon had been gone for a few weeks at that time, but when he got that report from Deputy Dog, he flew into a rage and was back in Detroit in no time flat. When he returned, I wasn't at the hotel, and Leon's ace boon coon started to signify. After all, I wasn't there, so Leon reached his verdict. I was guilty. When I did come back, I wasn't prepared for what greeted me. I wasn't with a man, but with Aisha and Amina. When I opened the door to the suite, it was full with lawyers and all the leeches that would stick to Leon no matter where he went. Leon was so mad that he was foaming at the mouth as if he was deranged. He lit into me before the door shut. "What's this shit I hear about you missing?" I scanned the room. It was a mixture of looks on the men's faces, from pity to amusement to contempt. Leon had started slamming his fist on the table, and Amina's eyes bugged, and by then, Leon had started yelling at the top of his lungs, doing deep knee bends at the same time. Whenever that happened, you couldn't talk to him because if you really had something to say or a point that had to be made, then you would have to subject yourself to a shouting match. Instead, I thought about what Malika Sr. would tell me on visits to her house. She taught me that it's a fool who beats his chest and will not bear wisdom, that it's useless to use the voice of a lamb against a raving lunatic. I looked at Leon, not saying a word until I could get a bearing on why in the hell he was this angry. Leon ordered me to sit down in a tone that you would use on a dog that had just soiled your carpet. When he did it in front of everyone that was in the room, I was determined that I would not submit. As he ordered me to sit again, I looked at him, and he grabbed my arm and twisted it until I half sat, and he half pushed me down into the chair. My eyes filled with tears from the pain, but I refused to let any fall. I was hurt, but I was more humiliated by the show he put on for all that were in the room. When I looked up at Leon, he had the gall to tell me that he was not trying to embarrass me. He went on to tell me all the reasons for his discontent, that I was missing and no one had seen me, that I was running the streets and I had a different man around me every day and on into the night. Then Leon said, "You belong to me. Nobody is to put their hands on you but me. You ought to keep your ass where I leave you. I know what's wrong with you, Nova. You found out that you're not ugly, but the shit better stop." Judge Bell and Lester looked at each other over Leon's remarks about my not ugly discovery. All I could think of was the nerve of what he had said to me. Before I could defend myself or try to, Leon was leaving out the suite, not waiting for any response that I might have had with Marvin and all of his ace boon coons running after him. I knew where all of it had come from. Aisha said, "What in the world is wrong with him? He said that he didn't want to embarrass you, and that's just what he was doing, as well as himself." While Aisha was talking, I turned to look at Deputy Dog, and that look on his face, you could have bought him for 2 cents. Then I said out loud, You lied on me, didn't you?" I leapt out of the chair and swung my purse, hitting across the top of his head. The rest of the men who didn't go with Leon were busy trying to get out of the way. Judge Bell backed into a dark powder room with Lester for company. I grabbed Deputy Dog by his arm and then up it in his collar to stop him as he was making his way out of the door. "You aren't going anywhere, you piece of shit. You lied on me, and you're most definitely going to set it straight." I hit him again and drew back one more time when Aisha stopped me, letting Deputy Dog scurry off down the hallway. I looked at Aisha. She said, "Nova, I know you're angry, and it's true. He may need his behind kicked, but I don't think you should take on the task. Amina and I will see if we can talk to Leon." They found Leon and Marvin in the bar of the hotel. They did try to talk to him to tell him what my real activities were, but as far as Leon was concerned, I had been found guilty and he would not hear anything else. He was too upset. I knew things like that would happen, but not so soon. I'd hoped that Leon had enough faith in me not to believe negative things that he had heard about me. He didn't have enough faith in me to fill an eyedropper full of water. He wouldn't give me half the fight that I had given and was still giving for him. Leon would run hot and cold when it came to me. Everybody saw how easy it was to plant a seed in Leon when it was about me. I wound up defending myself at every turn. I found Deputy Dog and told him that he was fired. He in turn said, "I work for the champ. You can't fire me. I know how to do a bastard such as him. I would get it done." Leon would fire him if that's what it would take. It wasn't long before the hotel was jumping again. The glasses were overflowing, and the smell of weed and cocaine smoke filled the air, and the women, tons of them. Half of them were just good time girls, and yes, there were the ones who had Leon in their sights trying to bag the Spinks animal. They did not know what they were getting into. It was like 10 black cats running across your path. I had already accepted the fact that Leon had turned into a womanizer, a whoremonger. On nights like those, I would turn everything out. I would go to the bedroom of our suite, shut all the doors, and Charlie and I would get up in the middle of the night and watch movies. I would turn up the volume on the TV as loud as I could take without breaking our eardrums. Leon would check on me more than ever before, always pounding on the door to the bedrooms, coming in wide-eyed, asking why I kept barricading myself up in my rooms. I would always hunch my shoulders, and he just couldn't figure it out. One night after the party was in full swing, I heard a knock on the door to the second bedrooms of the suite. I opened the door, and who was standing there but Lily and 2 of her buddies. Lily was clad in hot pants and 3 feet of hair. She looked startled to see me standing there and said, "Oh, I must have the wrong room." I told her she indeed had the right room and to keep her ass away from it before I had security help her to do so. Lily looked at me and said, "You don't talk to me like that. I'll blow your brains out. Leon wants me here." I told her that she would see what Leon wanted and that he didn't care for her no more than the strumpet he was probably with as we spoke. Aisha and Amina came down the hall as this was going on. Aisha looked and said, Nova, don't send your blood pressure up over a prostitute. I told Aisha that I didn't know any prostitutes that would tell a wife that she would blow her brains out. Aisha looked at me wide-eyed and then back at Lily and said, oh no, I didn't know that she said that. Girl, you are out of place. You have no business here, and talking like that will cause you to lose your life. Lily looked at us all and turned on her heels and left with her two friends running after her. I knew Leon was in the hotel downstairs on the main floor. He had called me from there to check on me. I waited until I saw Lily get in the elevator, then I caught another one and followed her down. And sure enough, she had Leon hemmed up by the payphones in the lobby. She saw me coming and stood with her hands on her hips defiantly. I walked up to them, looked at Leon and said, Leon, your hoe just told me that she was going to blow my brains out. Tell her what time it is and tell her who you want. Tell her that it's not her. Leon looked at me and then at Lily and said, you said what? Bitch! Wait, and say that right home. Bitch, you crazy. Bitch, you crazy. This is my wife. She's not one of you, and she's right. I don't want you. I never did. And you threaten my wife again, and you go curse the day your stinking ass was born. You got that? Leon grabbed my arm and started to walk away, but I had to add my 2 cents. See, I told your stupid ass I have him. I'm the wife, and all of this flashing my diamonds. What did you get? A good time, a joyride, a meal, or some dick? I bet he didn't even pay the price of admission. From now on, you better learn to respect a wife. We usually paid a lot of dues, and I'm no different. We walked away from her, and I looked back over my shoulder as her friends were saying, see, I told you, girl, how you gonna fuck with a wife? Lily was standing there looking stupid and hurt. She was so sure that it would have turned out different than it had. This dumb bitch. 2 weeks after that, I moved into my house. Lester had to stand in for Leon when it came to the closing. Leon was somewhere, and it didn't matter. I wouldn't let myself go in the deep end when he was gone. Only if he had business to take care of, then I would get a little upset if he didn't come back and take care of it. I would track him down by phone and I would tell him about it. I quit trying to globe hop to round him up. I would try to keep an eye on things until he popped up. I had been in the house for almost 2 months and Leon hadn't slept there once. I found out that Leon was talking to Butch after all the crap that had gone down between them. I told Leon when he did come home, just before he was leaving for training camp to prepare for his second Ali fight, Leon, if you don't leave Butch alone and fools like him and straighten up your act, you gonna lose in New Orleans. Naturally, Leon took it the wrong way. He saw it as me not having any faith in him, and he was still holding what Deputy Dog said as being the truth, and he was open to nothing that I said. Leon knew that he had to go to training camp, and everyone, including me, had to work like hell to get him there. We finally had to enlist our outside help to persuade Leon that he should be on his way to training camp. They did that by kidnapping him, throwing him into the trunk of the car, and speeding away with him. They let him out of the trunk a mile from the airport. Once Leon saw where he was, he gave in and decided to go to camp. When we received the call back saying that Leon was on the plane going in the right direction, then and only then all involved in the big roundup of Leon would lay back and breathe a sigh of relief. Once Leon was in camp, he would train, but then you had to try and watch him so he wouldn't vanish, and I would pass that information on to all who were around him in camp. When he was there, and depending on how remote it would be the only time Leon would think. He would begin to see things how they really were, but he was still easy prey to what someone told him about Nova. Leon would always call me up to curse me out when he was at the training camp. He would call to tell me how dirty and low down I was and that I didn't love him and that I didn't care what happened to him. He would push me just enough to get me crying and cursing him out at the same time, and then he would seem to be happy. I would feel foolish for falling for it again no matter how many times I promised myself that I wouldn't. Leon still knew what strings to tug on, and this sort of thing would carry on into all of his fights. If I didn't get my curse out call, it would worry me, and I would check the camp myself to see if everything was all right and to see if he was still there. I had a lot of things on my mind. It was plain as day to me. I was worried about the upcoming fight. There was too much hoopla going on about it. I felt as though the deck was stacked. It was not in Leon's favor. It was not in Leon's favor. All sides had brought up the famous brown bottle, insinuating that it contained drugs, and all it contained was peppermint extract to help with that wind that the boxers strive for. But the way Leon was doing the clown down was not helping his own cause. I couldn't make Leon set this, and it worried me a great deal. I couldn't make Leon see this, and it worried me a great deal. I had to talk to someone to try to maintain some kind of peace of mind. I needed help to accept whatever it was that was before me, and maybe help Leon at the same time. I knew it had to be Imam Wallace D. Muhammad, who was the successor to his father, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I felt that he was a connection between Ali's aide and me, and we were all one. I told Aisha what I was thinking and that I would feel better if I could talk to him. Aisha called and requested an appointment for me, and she was told yes and to come right now. Aisha, Amina, and I made reservations to go to Chicago, and since it was only a few hundred miles from Detroit, we could be back in a matter of a few hours. Although I had never talked to WD for any length of time other than being introduced to him and talking to him briefly when he signed my believer's declaration of faith, he embraced me as his sister, and I felt that link with him. I knew he was a man of great wisdom and insight. I respected him, and I could feel that he was a righteous man. I was glad that he agreed to see me so quickly. Once we landed in Chicago, we caught a taxi and went straight to the masjid. We took off our shoes and walked across a great hall where a few brothers and sisters were reading the Holy Quran or doing their prayers. When we got to the rostrum, with WD's office behind that, he smiled as I came into the room and said, Assalamu alaikum, may peace be unto you, my sister. I replied, Alaikum salam, my brother, returning the same hopes to him. I didn't waste time, and I began to tell him of my concerns. All I wanted was for Leon to have a fair shot at his upcoming fight. He told me that he himself didn't have anything to do with the upcoming fight and wanted nothing to do with such matters. He saw the downhearted look on my face. He then said, I can understand your concerns, and I see that you have a good heart, sister, and that you are here on behalf of your husband, but there's nothing that you can do. He may turn against you for the very ones you wish to protect him from, and what will be has already been decided. You know that. There's nothing to be done. Leon does not see. He is indeed blind. He has no respect for himself, and it is painfully obvious that he has none for his wife, and above all, you should have that, sister. He doesn't respect you, and that's very sad. Leon is his own worst enemy. Stop taking all that he does on your shoulders, sister. All that you must do is your duty as a wife, and above all else, keep your faith in Allah. Be prepared when it's over. Your husband will no longer wear the crown. I thanked him for seeing me, and he gave my hand a reassuring squeeze, and we left back to the airport. I looked at Aisha and then at Amina, and began shaking my head as I released a long, deep sigh. They both tried to console me. Then Aisha looked at me and said, Nova, my dear sister, I must confess, when I first laid eyes on you, I told Amina that you were something else, that you were evil and acted like a Hank. I was so very, very wrong. What I was seeing was the condition of the environment that you were living in. You were enthralled in misery. I admire the strength in you. It's been there all along. And just as the Imam said, you cannot do it all. It's out of your hands. Don't mourn over something like this. It's something that you have no control over. Amina nodded her head in agreement. After we were up in the air, I tried to realize then as I watched the clouds go by, and I wanted to accept the fact totally and finally that I couldn't change Leon back to what I had in the early days of our marriage. Too much damage had been done to both of us. He really was gone from me forever, and I mourned for that part of him that had succumbed to having no boundaries. Drugs, lust, no one ever saying no to him for anything, and he didn't know how to say it for himself. I would try to deal with that part of him that I had left. Although deep down, I would still hope that he would somehow, some way, find his way back to the man I once knew. All Imam told me was true. I would do my duty and whatever else was necessary as long as I could, and Leon would let me. After we got back to the city, I went straight home. That night when I lay down, I had the most peaceful sleep that I could remember since Leon was named King of the Heavyweights. At this time, being around women who were indeed strong were recharging my batteries, and my eyes were slowly open. My visit to Chicago and the masjid caused me to blink, and it all came into focus. I began to breathe on my own and finally exhaled, and it felt glorious. I know things had changed for me. I've had enough and then some. During that time, I found that I didn't sit around biting my nails every day. It was new, and I would hang out with the girls and go any and everywhere. But we would always end up at Aisha's or Amina's parents' house. We would cook, laugh, and talk, just act silly and have fun. They treated me no differently than their own children. Malika had 5 children, but lost a son under suspicious circumstances. I could not replace him, but I had a place in their home. One day, she looked at me, put her arms around me, and said, Nova, you are number 6. I knew she meant what she said, but to be honest, the more I was around that one brother, which was almost on a daily basis, that tall, dark, handsome man with long-lashed, soulful eyes and a bright smile with his beautiful teeth, I was glad that number 6 was really no blood relation because I intended to take Razul down. I began to chip away, watching his hands, breathing him in, and he always smelled so good. When it finally did come to pass, I understood why his family nicknamed him Ghost, because he just appeared to me one night, tapping on my door. I opened it, and I looked up into his eyes, and all he said was, Nova, I have tried, but I can't fight it anymore, and I had to let you know that no one is better than you. He put his arms around me and kissed me. I pushed the door shut while I was in his arms. Leon was in some state, but it wasn't Michigan. I had no hang-ups. I felt as if I was dreaming, but I knew that I wasn't. I was submerged into his light. He was soft, gentle, honest, and kind. I didn't feel like I was at a rodeo. He held on to me as if I would break, legs intertwined. I felt desire and wet with sweat, past my inhibitions, and it had been a while. But what I was feeling went beyond that. So sweet, so simple, holding nothing back. And when I heard the talk, the whispers, I felt my eyes well, and tears rolled down my face. All that was said was, Nova, over and over again. And I, in turn, thought, I'm alive. Good for her. Razul and I went on trips together, mainly with Aisha or Atone. Leon became suspicious of Atone at one point, but true to form, he was way off base again. The phone ringing woke me up. Razul was gone, and I don't know where they came from, but flowers were on the pillow. When I answered the phone, it was Leon. He had finally cooled down enough to talk to me, and I wanted to talk to him about all that Deputy Dog had said. Just as I was starting to get into it, Leon stopped me, saying that he didn't want to talk about it over the phone, and he asked, "What have you been doing? I hear you've been on the wild." I thought to myself, you have no idea, as my mind drifted off to the Nova past. Before I could respond, Leon added, "I'm tired of the shit they call food. Why don't you come down here for a while?" Leon, you want me at your training camp? That's a new one, isn't it? I asked. Leon retorted, "Not really. There's other bitches here." Since when he started referring to his wife as bitches? The fuck? I decided to let that one pass, and I felt good for a change. I didn't want to argue when I had peace, and I wasn't going to lose that for nobody. I told him that I would come. I was going to ask how Charlie was. Leon had sent Marvin for him so that he could spend some time with him. But before I could get the words out, there was a loud click in my ear. I wanted to see Charlie, and maybe Leon would give me a chance to clear my name, and he wouldn't have to curse it every time he heard it. I soon realized all the drama he gave me was to make him feel better about using his dick like it was rented for the day. It had been a week since I talked to Leon. I was ready to go until he sent Deputy Dog after me. I didn't have to be around none of those bastards since I had moved in the house. The public found out where my house was located, and no matter what time, day or night, people would come by like I was White Castle, always open. I once saw someone in my backyard trying to talk to Charlie. I ran him off with the threat of police. I had security, but I also wanted a barrier, a brick wall around my property. I started to inquire about it. How the neighbors found out, I will never know, but the letters started coming, telling me how dare I want to construct a Berlin-type wall to keep people out, and that the Spinks were public domain, or telling me that I should be grateful that all the white people allowed me to come to the neighborhood and put up with all the noise of the jungle music, the smell of barbecue smoke going around the clock, and all the trash and beer cans that I would undoubtedly have strewn across my lawn, etc. Because of that, I stayed sour, didn't neighbor well, because I didn't know where it all was coming from. If I was spoken to, all they got was hi or goodbye from me. I wasn't going to be infringed on. I was in control, and I wasn't going to give that back. My nickname was Dragon Lady on Breton Outer Drive. Then there was some official and what looked like his whole staff plus the press. It was 8 a.m. and there he was, all buttoned up and pressed, smiling for the press. I rolled open my window trying to brush my hair and the sleep out of my eyes, clearing my throat, and through my window I told all of them that Leon wasn't there. "Yes, well, we wanted to speak to you and interview you, Nova. Good morning. Could you run on down so we could talk to you and maybe have some coffee?" He replied. Now I was ticked off and thought, why didn't he say just tap on down and curtsy when I opened the door? Leon could be running around, but I wasn't. If I had known ahead of time, maybe things would have been different. I simply said, "No, that won't work for me, and have a good day." They all were looking up at me as if I had just talked about their mothers. Later that day, I caught up with the girls and told them how my day had been so far. They looked at me and then at each other and then back at me. Amina busted out laughing. Aisha's eyes wide and full of questions. "Was it city council? Did you know them? Was it a senator? Oh, Nova, was it a governor?" I hunched my shoulders to all of the questions, telling them that I don't know anybody's shit. "Nobody's paying my bills." Laughing again, Aisha said, "Girl, you are turning into a real Hank." My response to that was, "Okay, now let's go shopping." I was having a ball going through fabrics and colors to decorate the house. I had a few yes people myself. To my amazement, I lost weight without trying. I lost 25 and then 50 pounds. I had a long way to go, but I still felt good about it. I know that's right. I'm gone, no. When the doorbell rang and I opened the door, I wished that I had looked first and I would have played like I wasn't home. Deputy Dog was standing there grinning at me. He eased his way past me. "What the fuck you mean eased his way? Girl, bye." Darting his eyes through the rooms as he followed my finger into the kitchen. I had no idea why he was there, but I said nothing as I waited for him to get out what he had come for. Then he said, the champ sent me over here to see what the holdup was. He told me to make sure you got there. I can't wait to see you in that kitchen at camp cooking all that good soul food." Then he walked over to me, running his hand down my arm. What the fuck? This nigga touching on her? And said, "You You make all that fuss at the hotel and the champ still wouldn't listen to you. So have you changed your mind? Come on, Nova. You gotta be fucking somebody. Why can't it be me? I know the champ ain't giving you none. He's too busy with any hoe he can find. I jerked my hand away and said, is that all you wanted, nigga? If it is, then get the hell out of my damn house. I started pushing him toward the door with him laughing all the way, and I slammed it. Dog yelled from outside, Noble, what should I tell the champ? I opened the door and said, tell him what you want to. That's what you've been doing. And I slammed the door again. When Leon found out that the summons he sent with Deputy Dog hadn't worked, he started calling Aisha, not giving her any peace, asking if she'd seen me or if I was on my way down there being Hilton Head, South Carolina. I had been ready to go for weeks. I just wanted to go on my own speed. A day after that, Aisha and Amina came over, and when I opened the door, they came in rushing past me. They picked up my suitcases, grabbed me, and before I knew it, we were on our way to Metro Airport. I almost missed the plane. We had to run through the terminal with Aisha in front, pulling me by the hand because she ran the fastest and Amina behind us. While we were running, I yelled at Aisha, wait a minute, girl, I can catch another plane. But she wouldn't stop until we were at the gate. She took a deep breath and said, girl, are you crazy? You better get your behind on the plane. There's a wild man expecting you, and I don't want him to do the clown down on us no more. We all broke out in laughter as I turned to walk up the ramp and into the plane, waving goodbye. That was something else. And who knows what's going to be waiting for her on the other side of this flight. That was the end of chapter 11, y'all. And at this point, it is official. We are halfway through this read, y'all. The book itself is only 23 chapters, okay? So at chapter 12, it is officially halfway through. We only have 11 chapters left. Yes, yes, yes. I am pleased. I am very pleased, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this read. I hope you enjoyed this read, and I hope you are enjoying this read. Be sure to join me for the next episode of the bookshelf as we dive into chapter 12 of the Spinks Jinx. Once again, I want to remind you all to please share if you care, because we have a goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year or sooner. But I can't do that without you guys' help. I need you to share these episodes so that others can find and enjoy the channel. And please check out other content on the channel, as this is a variety channel and there is other content out there for you to enjoy. I do cooking content, I do fitness content, I do outings, travel, cleaning, you name it. We've got a little bit of everything over here so that there is something for everyone. So check it out, subscribe, be sure to like, drop a comment. I love comments. Comments make my day. I appreciate you guys. And until next time.